The world's eyes are on the escalation in Lebanon and the ongoing atrocities in Gaza. But one of the places largely forgotten is the occupied West Bank, where Israeli settler violence against Palestinians has grown since the Hamas attacks. Almost 700 people have been killed in the West Bank since last year's October 7th attacks. Under international law, Israel's occupation of the West Bank and other Palestinian territories, including the Gaza Strip and the Golan Heights, is illegal. Our Jeff Semple is in Jerusalem.
In the occupied West Bank, Palestinians are burying their children. 13-year-old Bana Lebwam was killed last month in her bedroom. Israeli settlers were clashing with Palestinians outside her house. Lebwam was hit by a stray bullet. She was afraid and hiding in her room with her sisters, her mother says. Suddenly, a bullet came through the window and hit her while she was on the bed. Then, on Thursday, an Israeli fighter jet struck this cafe, killing 18 people. Israel says most were terrorists, including a Hamas leader, plotting attacks for the October 7th anniversary. The victims included a young family with 2 children who lived in the apartment upstairs. Sham was 7 years old. Karam was still in kindergarten, their grandmother says. My daughter Seja loved her children, and everyone loved her. Palestinians in the occupied West Bank say that Israel has been using the Hamas attack on October 7th as a pretext to crack down on Palestinians living here. After the 7th of October, our suffering increased, said Fatih al-Shaib. The 68-year-old has lived here all his life and says the past year has been one of the most violent. After a major Israeli raid targeting Hamas in August, his city of Tulkarm lies in ruins. The operation damaged the main water line. Israel says it was an accident. Electricity lines were also cut. The past year has also seen a spike in the number of Israeli checkpoints in the West Bank and attacks from Israeli settlers, including this one last month on an elementary school.
These settlers act as gangs. They move around the West Bank in every corner. They attack civilian population, and the Israeli settlers act with the protection and support of the Israeli army.
Israeli officials deny that and have condemned the violence. Since October 7th, clashes in the West Bank have killed at least 24 Israelis and more than 700 Palestinians. Israel is ready to kill 100 innocent people to target one resistance fighter, al-Shaib says. Those resistance fighters are often members of Palestinian Islamic Jihad, a militant group fighting for an independent Islamist state. Faces of its members killed in recent months are posted throughout the refugee camp, even worn around the necks of children, growing up under occupation and increasingly over the past year under assault. Jeff Semple, Global News, Tulkarm.
33-year-old Montreal native Alexander Look and 22-year-old Vancouverite Ben Mizrahi were 2 of those concert-goers killed while attending the Supernova Music Festival 1 year ago tomorrow. The men are among 8 people, some pictured here, who were either Canadian citizens or had ties to Canada and were murdered during the Hamas attacks. Jeff Semple speaks to the families of 2 Canadian victims about how they're coping 1 year on.
1 week after October 7th, Hamas released this chilling video showing the gunman holding 2 small Israeli children captured during the attack. The same children appeared in another Hamas propaganda video as they were being released. Israeli-Canadian Jackie Rivers-Vittel says she saw the video on TV and immediately recognized her grandchildren.
I'm sitting in the kitchen watching the news, and I went, that's Negev. I mean, a grandmother knows what, that's my Negev. Yeah.
Her grandsons, 4-year-old Negev and 3-month-old Ashel, were taken hostage on October 7th. The boys had been home with their mother, Israeli-Canadian Adi Vittel Kaplun. When the emergency sirens sounded and word spread of the attack, Adi locked herself and her children in their safe room and grabbed a gun.
And suddenly I heard an explosion.
Adi's mother was away in Canada, but her father was staying in the guest house nearby. Adi sent a message warning him to stay away.
She was brave. She saved her 2 sons. She saved her father.
Adi was shot and killed by Hamas. They set a booby trap in the safe room, which nearly killed her father.
And one of the grenades was attached to the door. And when I opened the door, I designated the grenade. It didn't explode, it was a failure one.
The year since has brought both immense pain and new purpose, caring for their grandchildren and sharing her story.
I just look at Negev in his red sweatshirt and his hoodie. He looks just like Adi. Exactly like Adi. He's smart like Adi. Yeah, we have to keep her legacy alive.
Adi was one of 8 Israeli Canadians killed by Hamas. Another, Vivian Silver, the 74-year-old, had dedicated her life to campaigning for peace and the rights of Palestinians. Her son says he wasn't politically active before October 7th, but is now following her footsteps.
You know, my mother was killed in the context of war. So I want to change that context.
Instead of seeking revenge, he's now going on speaking tours talking about peace.
The only way to achieve security is to transform your enemy into being your partner.
For the anniversary, these families and others are sharing their stories to keep their loved ones' memories and legacies alive. Jeff Semple, Global News, Tel Aviv.